Clarice stood at the edge of the mat, one bare foot in the fluorescent spill of light, the other still in shadow. Her body was thin, fragile even, wrapped in a faded GI that hung off her shoulders like it remembered someone younger. She didn't belong here, not in a dojo filled with 20-somethings snapping their limbs through the air like human metronomes, not among the peals of laughter that followed every time she bent into a stance that looked more like prayer than power. They didn't see what you see now. They couldn't feel the shift in the air when she raised her eyes. But you feel it, don't you? That low hum behind your ribs. The one warning you that something here has cracked. You might think you stumbled on this story by accident. That it just popped up between reels of dogs jumping into pools or trending disasters far away from home. But something else brought you here, and you know it. This isn't entertainment. This is a record, a testimony, a flicker of truth, dressed as a whisper, and right now, you're the only one reading it. They called her grandma behind her back. They made jokes. One kid even filmed her during warm-ups and posted it with a caption, * when grandma tries taekwondo but ends up summoning spirits. Funny until the video vanished, wiped not just from the app, but from his phone entirely. He said it froze, glitched, and when he replayed it, the frame had changed. Clarice wasn't even in it. Just an empty mat, and a single word in the center. **** again. ***, he hasn't been back to class since. No one talks about it. They pretend it never happened, but you've felt it too, haven't you? That urge to look away when things don't make sense. The instinct to laugh instead of ask questions that don't have answers. Clarice didn't come from around here. No one ever saw her drive in, and no one ever saw her leave. She didn't speak unless spoken to, and even then, it was barely above. A breath like the words cost something. But that day, everything changed. It was near the end of class. During sparring drills, when she took her stance. Not the crooked, gentle pose they'd all come to expect. No, this was different. Her back straightened, her shoulders squared. Her eyes locked onto something no one else could see. And then she whispered something to the boy across from her, Michael Russo. A single word. Quiet, unclear, almost too faint to catch. He froze. His body convulsed. Just once, like he'd been struck by lightning that no one else felt. And then, he was gone. Not passed out. Not on the floor. Gone. No one screamed. No one ran. They all just ... blinked. And in that blink, their memory rewrote itself. They went back to their drills, laughed, stretched, left like Michael had never been there. Except you. You remember him, don't you? Someone is trying to erase this story. But Clarice didn't vanish. She's still in that dojo every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. And every week, someone new walks in smirking, skeptical, ready to film. Every week, someone else disappears. And last night, a baby in the apartment above the dojo, barely able to say mama, woke up screaming a name no one had ever spoken aloud, Russo. But the most disturbing part, the baby's parents had just moved in. They've never been to that class. They've never even heard of Clarice. At least. That's what they say. So let me ask you something. ***, if Clarice isn't teaching karate, what is she preparing them for? ***, and who, exactly, is next? Michael Russo wasn't supposed to be real. That was the first thing Clara said when I tracked her down. 3 weeks after the dojo closed without explanation. The locks hadn't been changed. But the doors no longer made noise when they opened, just a low, breathy creak, like the building itself was trying to hush me. I hadn't meant to go back, but I kept seeing that name. Russo scrawled into condensation on my mirror, buried in the metadata of files I didn't open. Spoken in the static between FM stations that should have been dead air. Clarice was already inside, barefoot, kneeling in the center of the mat. Her hands rested gently on her thighs, her eyes closed. And when she finally looked at me, I felt that same vertigo, like the ground beneath me had been lying this whole time. He wasn't supposed to be real, she repeated, voice dry with something ancient. But you remembered. That's what broke it. I should have run. Instead, I asked the only question that made sense. What did you whisper to him? Her answer didn't come with words, just silence. A pause too long, too loaded, like it was considering whether to let the truth out. Then, finally, she said, a reminder. There was a ringing in my ears. High-pitched, piercing, familiar, but I didn't know why. I stumbled back out of the building, heart jabbing against my ribs like it wanted to escape. That night, my phone began recording on its own. No notification, no red dot. Just a 4-hour video sitting in my gallery titled, Watch_me_first. Move. I wish I had never opened it. The footage started inside my own apartment, but the layout was wrong. Familiar furniture arranged in unnatural symmetry. Nothing looked used. Everything was placed with surgical precision, like it had been staged. I watched myself sleep on the couch, blanket up to my neck, still as a mannequin. At 3:14 a.m., my eyes opened. But my body didn't move, not at first. The me on screen just stared ahead, wide-eyed, expressionless. Then, mechanically, I sat up and whispered a phrase in a voice I swear wasn't mine. We are the ones they forgot. Audio warped. Garbled frequencies twitched through the speakers. Somewhere underneath the distortion, a second voice echoed mind mail, deep, struggling to break through. Asterisk, asterisk, dot, 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 Don. Single quotes T, dot, dot, trust. The second dot, dot, asterisk, asterisk, the second what? The second what? I replayed the video over and over, trying to slow it down, enhance it, extract clarity. But every time, something changed. One night the walls were closer. Another night there was someone else in the room, a shadow barely visible in the frame's edge. By the fifth playback, my voice no longer matched what I remembered. It said, something new, asterisk, asterisk, the truth isn't hidden. It's overwritten, asterisk, asterisk, I stopped sleeping. That's when I met Jack. He said he used to train with Clarice, back before the dojo even had a name. Said he'd been flagged, whatever that meant, and moved to another city after his turn. When I asked what that meant, he only laughed long, breathless, like he'd been waiting for someone to ask. But he wouldn't answer directly. He said people like us were receivers, that Clarice wasn't teaching a martial art, but rather unblocking memory pathways that weren't supposed to be accessible. Sounded like paranoid garbage at first, until he showed me his hands. They shook constantly. Not from age or illness, but something deeper. Like his body no longer trusted his mind. He said it started after one of the classes, when Clarice held her palm against his chest during meditation and whispered something he couldn't quite hear. That night, his mother who'd been dead since he was 8 called his phone and left a voicemail. Just breathing and the sound of waves. His childhood home had been nowhere near the ocean. You remember how your dreams used to feel real? He asked me once, eyes darting toward things I couldn't see. That's because they were. They just erased the evidence. I stopped him. They? Who's they? Jack smiled the way someone does when they know a secret has already rotted. Your teeth. Not who? When? Clarice vanished the following week. No trace. No online presence. Her lease was scrubbed from the property records. But her scent remained in that dojo, old jasmine, and something iron-rich, like rusted chains, left in water. I kept hearing things in the walls. The clicking of nails. A voice whispering phrases I'd never learned in languages I somehow understood. And worse, I started finding things in my pockets, paper, scraps with timestamps and messages I hadn't written. Asterisk, asterisk, 3:47 a.m. Don't look at the mirror this time. Asterisk, 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 they are watching from inside memory. Asterisk, 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 ask Jack about the left eye. Asterisk, asterisk, so I did. He denied it, then broke down sobbing. He said there was never a Jack, that his real name was Aaron, that he woke up one day and his face didn't match any of his ID cards, that his own mother screamed when he visited her nursing home, said he was a fraud, a replacement. When I looked him up later, there were no records of anyone named Jack or Aaron in connection to the dojo. No training logs, no registrations, nothing, except one grainy photo buried in a forgotten folder on my hard drive. Me standing in the dojo, Clarice behind me, her hand on my shoulder, and Jack, no Aaron, but something was wrong. He had no face, just a blur. Like someone had smudged his identity off the record. I opened the file info, date created, 2012. I didn't meet Jack until 3 weeks ago. I was 17 in 2012, and I've never set foot in that dojo before this year. They say trauma rewires your memory. But what if the trauma is the rewiring? What if someone, something, is intentionally rerouting the events of your life? Not just to hide, but to overwrite. A complete psychological overwrite, like erasing VHS tapes and taping over them, frame by frame, voice by voice, until even you believe the lie you're living in. Jack Aroni doesn't remember his childhood. Says he gets flashes of someone else's. A girl, barefoot, in snow. A man crying behind a closed red door. A woman in a white karate gi, whispering something he can't quite make out. We compared notes. We've both seen the red door, but neither of us has ever been inside. And now, people have started recognizing me. Strangers, in airports, in grocery stores. Hey, you were there, weren't you with her? With Clarice. I ask them how they know that name. They go pale, they stutter, and then, they always say the same thing. I wasn't supposed to say that out loud. I can't sleep. Every time I do, I dream in third person. I watch myself do things I don't remember, talk to people I've never met, and always, end up back in that dojo. Clarice kneeling on the mat, whispering something I can almost hear before I wake up soaked in sweat. And every morning, my voicemail has a new message, breathing, then waves, then static, then that voice again. Asterisk, asterisk, we are the ones they forgot. Asterisk, asterisk, tonight. I found something that made everything worse. Buried in the voice memos on my phone was a recording dated 2 years into the future. August 2nd, 2027. My own voice, panicked, whispering in rapid breaths. Greater than if you're hearing this, she got out. You have to remember, Clarice isn't a person. She's a system, a containment field. Every time someone remembers her, the memory breaks open a little more. The red door isn't where she's hiding. Asterisk, asterisk, the red door is asterisk you. Dot, asterisk, 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 I deleted the recording. 5 minutes later, it was back. Dot, and this time, the ending was different, greater than stop trying to tell the story. That's how she spreads. So now, I have to ask you something. Not to scare you, but to see if we're both already too late. Asterisk, asterisk, do you remember Clarice now? Asterisk, asterisk, or is this the first time she's been let into your memory? Because once you remember her, you can't forget, and the next time you see her, she'll already know your name. I thought it was over the night I burned the recording. I remember standing in my apartment. Lights off, phone clenched in my fist like it might still speak. The .mov file, the one labeled watch_me_first, had replicated itself again and again. Each version slightly different, each timestamp wrong. Some listed dates that hadn't happened yet. Others referenced moments I'd only dreamt about: my mother's funeral, a missing photo album, the man at the end of the hallway who only appeared when no lights were on. When I dragged them all into the trash and hit delete, the screen flickered and went black for 3 full minutes. I stood there in the dark, listening to the hum of something I convinced myself was just the fridge. Then turned my phone over and smashed it under my heel until the glass cracked like ice. That should have been the end. The static stopped. The dreams faded. My name stopped appearing in places it didn't belong. No more whispers through radios. No more strangers recognizing me. Even the dojo vanished, boarded up overnight with a sign that just read, asterisk, asterisk, under maintenance. As if whatever had been leaking from behind its walls had finally been sealed. It felt clean, sharp-edged, like waking from a long drugged sleep and convincing yourself it had only been a nightmare. I even went so far as to Google shared delusions, group hallucination, mass psychosis. I let the algorithm walk me back into rationality. It fed me articles that soothed, explained, labeled. Nothing supernatural, nothing sinister, just neural misfires, human fragility. The classic unreliable narrator we all carry in our heads. But one detail wouldn't let me go. A child, screaming a name he shouldn't know. Asterisk, asterisk, Russo, asterisk, asterisk. I returned to the apartment above the old dojo on a Thursday morning, midsummer heat pressing into my lungs like I was inhaling soup. A man opened the door, a father, mid-30s, holding a mug that said #1 Dad in a font so cheerful it looked like a joke. His name was Daniel. Said I must be mistaken. They'd just moved in a month ago, and no, their son hadn't said anything strange. Still barely says juice. He chuckled. We're lucky if he gets a full word in, but I could see it in his eyes, the flicker of too much calculation, the tiny pause before speaking, not lying, masking. That night, a new video appeared in my cloud backup, dated 2 days before I smashed my phone, labeled asterisk, asterisk, Clarice_final, moved, asterisk, asterisk. I watched it in full, a static shot of the dojo, empty, quiet. Then, a figure entered, not Clarice, but someone I recognized, me. I moved with mechanical precision, stopping center mat, raising my arms in the same slow kata she had once shown us. In the background, barely visible through the dojo's glass front door, the baby stood outside, alone, watching. His mouth moved, silent. Frame by frame, I zoomed in. He was saying the name again, only this time, it wasn't Russo, it was mine. I broke that night, or maybe I broke through. I began cataloging everything: dates, times, images, notes I'd left myself in dreams. A folder, titled Discontinuities, slowly filled my laptop. I mapped the events, laid them over each other, and realized something horrifying. They were repeating. Not thematically, not metaphorically. Literally, the same shadows at the edge of my frame from different videos had the same timing. The same distortion happened at the same second in 2 different recordings. The same glitch in my reflection when I passed a store window in August 2025 had already occurred, pixel for pixel, in a photo from 2012. And in that moment, a cold truth settled beneath my skin like ice poured down my spine. Asterisk, asterisk, I wasn't remembering Clarice. I was relapsing into her. Asterisk, asterisk, I dug into old news archives, dead links, corrupted files, forgotten blogs from the early 2000s. I found a single article that had no author and only lived in cached form. The title, asterisk, asterisk, The Woman in White Who Waits Through Time. Asterisk, asterisk, it told the story of a forgotten town in Alabama, swallowed in 1987 by fire and silence. Before the flames, residents reported dreams of a woman kneeling in white, whispering things they forgot upon waking, except for one phrase that stuck in every retelling. Asterisk, she sees through the cracks. Asterisk, survivors spoke of identity loss, of children answering to the wrong names, of mirrors that stopped reflecting. The town's last radio broadcast ended in static. Then an audio clip of someone crying out a single word. Russo. There it was again. Like a loop, a reset, a skipped record pretending to be linear. The only known photo of the town pre-collapse. A karate dojo, weathered and windowless. With the words again, painted across the door in red dot. The metadata said the photo had been taken in 2012. That year, again, I was 17 and I had never been to Alabama, but I had a scar on my wrist that I never remembered getting. Then came the false resolution. It was Jackaron, whatever his name had once been. He contacted me through an untraceable number, said he'd found the source, claimed it was tied to an abandoned government cognitive study, Project Prismal, hidden in a military annex decommissioned in the early 90s. He said they had been using people like Clarice, hyper-empathetic individuals capable of unearthing suppressed memories not just from the mind, but from the timeline itself. She's not the danger, he said, she's the safe. We drove 6 hours into the desert, reached a facility hidden beneath a chapel, cold cement, rusted lockers, rows of analog tech that looked like it hadn't seen human hands in decades. There were files, logs, footage, testimonies, and in one of the VHS tapes, I saw Hercules younger, hair tied back, restrained to a chair. She was speaking calmly, asking the scientists around her if they knew what came next. None of them did. Then she turned and looked directly into the camera. She smiled, and in my own voice, I heard her say, "Greater than you'll come looking for this answer. You always do." That's when the lights went out. I woke up in my apartment, TV playing static, phone repaired and whole, sitting on the counter, no sign of Jack, or the desert, or any record of Prismal. But something had changed, because now, there was a second version of me in every reflection. Not mimicking, flagging, watching, and sometimes, smiling before I do. There's a memory I buried. One I thought was fiction, a childhood moment I wrote off as a dream until now. I was 9, my grandmother had just died. I was alone in the basement, touching old photographs when I heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy, deliberate, and then, her voice, my grandmother's, calling my name, but it wasn't her. Because when I climbed the stairs, heart in my throat, I saw her standing at the front door in a white GI. She looked straight at me and said, "Don't forget your stance." Then vanished. That memory returned last night, like someone had uncensored it. And as I sat in bed shaking, I realized something that made my blood stop cold. The voice in the voicemail, the whisper behind all the static. It was mine, from the future, trying to warn me, and I failed. I played the first video again. The very first, the one where Clarice whispered to Michael Russo before he vanished. I slowed it, frame by frame. Watched the pixels dance like they'd been hiding something. Then buried in the sound channel, deep under the waveforms, I found a second audio track, corrupted but present. I isolated it, ran it through filter after filter, cleaned it, and then heard my own voice say, "Greater than don't believe the it's just the decoy." So now, I have to ask you again. What do you remember? Because this story, this loop, has played before. In 2012, in 1987, in 1954. Always with the same cast, always with the same script, shuffled slightly. But now, you've seen too much. And something's changed. You're not watching this anymore. You're inside it. Look at your screen reflection. Go ahead, watch closely. Does it move when you do? Or did it already know what you were going to do next? I used to think I was the one unraveling, that everything wrong with my memory, the distortions in my reflection. The whispers buried in static were symptoms of a private illness I hadn't yet named. But that illusion shattered last Tuesday, at exactly 3:03 a.m., when someone slipped a folded piece of paper under my apartment door. No knock, no footsteps. Just a quiet drag of fabric over carpet, and then silence. I stood there for a full minute before I opened the door. No one in the hallway. Nothing but the red emergency light blinking in lazy intervals. The paper was yellowed at the edges like it had aged in a drawer that hadn't been opened since the 80s. My name was written on the front, not typed, not printed, handwritten, the way my grandfather used to write, tight cursive that sloped as if it had been pulled downhill. Inside, 6 words, you were right all along, Clarice, but Clarice had never written me anything. She didn't send messages. She was the message, and the handwriting wasn't hers. It was mine. From high school, I know because I compared it. Every loop and slant matched the notes I wrote senior year in geometry class, but I hadn't written it. Not now, not in this timeline. That same day, I started seeing the symbol again. 3 intersecting lines, like a pitchfork bent at the center, carved into the elevator panel in my building, drawn in condensation on my rear windshield, imprinted faintly in the corner of old photographs that had never shown it before. When I Googled it, nothing came up, but when I dragged it into an image recognizer, the system froze and spit out an error I'd never seen before. Origin, not compatible with public index. So I posted it to an old conspiracy forum under a throwaway name. 3 hours later, I got a DM. The profile had no posts, no history, just a username, A_sleeper_left_awake. It said, "We see it too. Meet us where the loop begins." Attached, was a grainy image, a street sign, Redmond Avenue, and below it, graffiti only visible when you brighten the image's shadows. Asterisk, asterisk, again. Asterisk, asterisk, I drove out to Redmond that night. A neighborhood that didn't show on GPS until I got within 10 blocks. It was quiet, 2 quiet houses too still, like movie sets abandoned after filming. The streetlights buzzed like they were struggling to stay real. I parked outside a boarded-up bakery. Lights off, phone dead, even though it had been at 78% just minutes earlier. The air tasted metallic, like I'd bitten my tongue without realizing it. And then they came. Not Clarice, not Jack, other 6 of them, stepping into the light, one by one. Each face familiar in the uncanny way dreams feel like half-remembered childhoods. I didn't know their names, but I'd seen them. Once in a fever. Once in a crowd photo from a newspaper article I'd never read. Once reflected behind me in a mirror in a house I've never been to. They didn't speak. They handed me a folder leather-bound. Ancient, its buckle rusted shut. When I finally forced it open, I found photographs. Black and white stills of me. From different eras, one of me in a 70s diner. Another in what looked like Vietnam, helmet tilted back. A third, the worst, was me as a child, no older than 7, staring straight into the lens. Tears streaming down my face as I stood beside a woman in a white GI. Clarice. Looking exactly the same. No older, no younger. Ageless. One of them. Finally, spoke. He said, "We're echoes. You're an anchor. Then, they're rewriting around you." I asked who they were. He didn't answer. He just placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "You've been waking up. That's why it's getting louder." The dreams changed. Now they weren't dreams at all, but memories bleeding through. I saw myself as a college professor giving lectures on temporal anomalies, as a groundskeeper at a monastery with no records, as a girl in 1913, clutching her brother's hand while a white figure whispered to them through cracks in a well. Each time I awoke, there was a new scar, or a new wrinkle, or an ache in my bones I couldn't explain. My body was remembering things it had never been through in this life. I started writing everything down. Shared dreams. Recurring numbers, scent triggers. The moment before I woke up always ended with one word echoing in my skull, louder and more desperate each time. Asterisk, asterisk again. Asterisk, asterisk. There was a pattern in the note symbols in the margins I hadn't drawn. But when I turned the pages upside down and connected them, they formed coordinates. I went. What I found was a storage unit buried under fake listings, a building that no longer had electricity, in a zip code that no longer existed on maps. Inside the unit were tapes, hundreds marked in red ink, each labeled with a different name. Mine was at the front. I played it. It showed me sitting at a table, face slack, answering questions to someone off camera. At one point, I said, asterisk, the first time she came, I thought it was grief, but she was testing how many versions of me would remember. Asterisk, I watched the whole thing. Then watched the next tape. And the next. People I'd never met, all saying the same things, same timelines, same symbols, same voice whispering to them at the edge of memory, and the same crack in reality forming just behind their eyes. But in one tape, someone broke the script. They looked directly at the camera and said, "This isn't a loop, it's a prison." The reset happens every time one of us remembers too clearly, and they erase us from the story. You're next. I threw up. I blacked out. When I came to, I wasn't in the storage unit, I was home. Everything was fine. The story was gone. The tapes didn't exist. No folder. Note scarred. Just a single sticky note on my bathroom mirror. Asterisk, asterisk, do not trust the observer. That's when I started seeing her. Not Clarice, someone else. The observer. Asterisk, asterisk, at first, I thought she was another hallucination. A failsafe my mind had built to make sense of the unraveling. But then I realized something horrifying. She wasn't watching me. She was watching the viewers. She would look into reflective surfaces, TV screens, computer monitors, phone cameras, but never at me. Always just over my shoulder. Just behind the lens, always toward where you would be. And in one recording, an old live stream I didn't remember ever doing, I paused the playback and enhanced the image. Her reflection wasn't mine. She had my face, but not my eyes. They were Clarice's. I found her again last night, on a hidden page, buried deep in a website for a defunct internet provider. The page was titled, "For the Anchor," only it had a single image, the dojo, but not boarded up, not abandoned. Alive. Lit. And beneath it, asterisk, live feed enabled. Asterisk, I clicked, and I saw myself. In real time, entering the dojo. Closing the door behind me, taking my stance. But I wasn't there. Not in this version, not in this timeline. I should have felt horror, but all I felt was recognition, like watching an old home video you forgot you filmed. Like finding evidence of a crime you committed in a past life. So now, here we are. You've seen it all. The hidden truth. The memory glitch. The found footage from 20 years ago. The mystery uncovered. The signs that prove you're not crazy. They lied to you. But if this story feels familiar, it's because it is, because you've been part of it. From the beginning, you're not watching this video, you're inside it. You're the observer, and they've been watching you this whole time. Don't move, don't speak. They're listening through your reflection.